Welcome to a special milestone episode of the ASQ podcast, our 100th episode. It's been an incredible journey of growth, transformation, and shared wisdom, and we couldn't have made it this far without you. In this episode, we'll reflect on the lessons learned along the way, exploring the insights and experiences that have shaped our mission and vision. We'll also discuss where ASQ Empowerment Services and the podcast stand today and share our exciting plans for the future as we continue to focus on life, leadership, and culture. So whether you've been with us since the beginning or you're tuning in for the first time, thank you for being part of the ASQ community. Stay tuned. All right.
Wow, 100 episodes, huh?
100 episodes.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
To be quite honest with you, it's kind of a little bit surreal, to be honest with you. I know this is kind of like an idea in my head about just talking and sharing and doing things like that and getting to know people and seeing the hero's arc in their stories. So it all started from that, and it's been kind of like both a personal evolution as individual, speaking from my end, but also an evolution into kind of like opening up my eyes to different things, that we could start doing, that I could start doing. So it's been that. So what about for you so far?
Well, to be honest with you, so we've been doing this for this is our third year, right? Because we started this whole thing in
2001.
I don't want to say it, but 2021.
2021, sorry.
We started in 2001.
We started in 2001. Yeah, that's actually true.
That's hilarious.
Good point.
That was good, though.
That's
perfect.
Good point.
But I feel like it's 3 years, and we have just done so much, been through so much, experienced so many things, gone through so many things.
Yeah.
And it's funny that this was born in COVID year, which for a lot of people, a lot of things were born during that year, right?
Yeah.
So how does it make me feel? I feel like I've definitely also grown a lot. And I have just where I feel like I was ripe 3 years ago, I feel like, not ripe, where I feel like I was not ripe. Mm-hmm. Now I feel like I'm more
ripe.
Yeah. I don't know. What's the word for not ripe?
I mean, you're green. You're green. Right?
Where I was green, now I'm more...
Ripened,
right.
You know.
I'm more ripened in my thoughts and my perspectives on people and life, and more importantly on myself and you and I. So I think that's kind of where I'm at. It's almost hard to believe that it's like 100 episodes. But then I think, is that all?
Yeah.
Is that funny to say? Because so much work has been put into putting this together, more on your side. As far because you've done all the technological stuff and all the IT things and like making sure the camera equipment looks good. Lighting has been like the bane of your existence. But it's also like, wow, 100 episodes, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting because I was thinking about it, because this episode doesn't have a topic. It's just kind of like, we're just talking.
We're being very organic, actually.
Yeah, we're very, very organic.
I mean,
and
I have some questions.
Actually, that's one of the things that really stood out from our conversations and starting to do these things. It's not to pretend to be, super organized or super whatever, speak in a certain way or pronounce or do things like that, but it's just an organic way of being, and that's why would either resonate with people or not resonate with people.
Yeah, I actually wanted to talk about that.
Yeah, so that's one thing that we will get into. But I will tell you this, right? And this is kind of like one of the things that doing this episode, I started thinking about it, right? For most of our careers, so most of the stuff that we've done, we have always implemented somebody else's vision, right? Something that somebody else wanted to see, the things that they wanted to do, how they wanted to go about doing things, And doing something that is uniquely yours, it's so much different, right? Because you are focusing and creating something that is your vision, your idea, what was given to you by the universe, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. So focusing on that gives us something else, something a little different. Because you have doubts, obviously, right? Because there is no umbilical except your own idea. Right? Yeah. There's nothing to go back to. There's nothing, someone to say, hey, I see this, what do you see? What is it? Does this align with what you're doing? It's just you. It's just us coming up and thinking about the things that we want to talk about and saying the things that we want to say and sharing the experiences that we share. So there's a certain level of being naked. Vulnerable, right?
Yeah.
That goes with this. And then the criticism, that comes with that, right? And being okay with that. I there was a comment that was left about sound, and somebody said, fix the sound, you fucking idiot, right? And I was
they said that?
Yeah. And
you didn't share that with me.
No, because it was like you could easily get dragged into that kind of nonsense, right?
I think that's hilarious.
I thought it was at first.
They literally said "fucking idiot."
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's so funny. Okay.
And at first I was like, the South Bronx was about to come out of me, right? And then I kind of like realized, you know what? I have to allow myself the opportunity to learn.
Yeah.
The opportunity to make mistakes and the opportunity to have somebody that has no consequence say whatever they want to say and not allow it to affect me, right?
Yeah, because people are going to people. At the end of the day, they're going to do what they want to do. That's right.
We're
always peopling,
And people are going to do that. And so that was this type of things that as going into all this time and doing this, kind of like just made me realize that it's like, it doesn't matter what I do, say, be. People are going to people. And allow people to people. And whoever this resonates with and whoever takes the message of what we are, the intention of what we are trying to accomplish, and they go and take it and go with it, then and it benefits them, which is the intention of what we're doing for them to really be empowered to live their lives authentically.
Right.
Then fuck them. That's a little bit of the hood in me coming out, right?
Yeah, but I mean, you know me, I'm always hood, so I'm always saying something. I mean. But no, I agree with that whole thing that you just said right now. So I was thinking about it too when we were preparing for this episode. I was thinking about somebody had left a message that you did share with me. It was an individual that was using our podcast for their research or for maybe a homework assignment or something. I thought that was pretty cool. I was like, oh, that's great, and they were just like, oh my God, that sucked. All they do is talk all over each other and whatever. And I was just like, okay, well, I guess thank you for the feedback.
Thank you for the feedback. Yeah.
I don't know, but we're novices and we're learning and we're evolving. And I think that if you can listen to our episodes and take away what the intentions are and learn from the things that we're trying to share and give out, then the other things are you can extend a little grace for the other things that are nuances that are annoying or whatnot. But it is what it is. You got, like you said, we got to let people.
Yeah. And you know what the thing is that behind every criticism, right? I mean, it's all about the delivery, right?
Oh yeah.
Because again, you people are saying things, and again, if I was more sensitive than what I am now, like I used to be, right, I would take that as kind of like a dagger and saying I suck at this, right? But yeah, sometimes I mean we both recognize, hey, we gotta make sure that we allowed each other to talk and finish their, and allow our thought to be expressed,
right, and
give each other that flexibility, right? We've learned that, and we've learned a bit about audio and about camera positioning. I've learned that,
right?
And but the interesting thing about it all, right, was just like the quest of life, which is about learning, which is about improving, and one of the lessons that I've learned in the last 3 years of doing this and arriving at 100 episodes is the fact that I'm allowed to make mistakes because I'm a fucking human being. You're
peopling too, right?
I'm peopling too. It's like, how else am I supposed to learn? How else am I supposed to improve if I am not trying something and it doesn't go according to paths, right? And this is one of the things that I'm consistently seeing in the conversations that we have, the pressure that is put on us to always be perfect, to always have all the answers, to always pretend. And I say that with a little bit of a dagger, right? We always have to pretend to always be in control and know everything, right? And none of us are that. And I learned through this process, for someone that's very self-critical, right? And that's one of the things that I had to be able to understand and transform, is that I don't always have to have the answers. I don't always have to be perfect. But I know that from episode 1 to episode 100, it's gotten better.
Yeah,
Improved. We're growing. We're more succinct and clear about what our mission is, what it is that we want to accomplish. And the beauty of it all is that we get up every morning and we always try to get better, and not just for the sake of getting somewhere, but just to be able to experience life much better. Right. And so yeah, I mean, and even as we continue to go, criticism is going to come, it's part of our hiding behind the walls, the facade of virtual life, right? That we could easily say things about people without regards, because there will be no repercussions, right? There will be no, but also it's encouraging to see that, at least for me, that I could take that and take it as like, okay, I could do it better without having to beat myself up. Right. And that's one of the lessons that I've learned in the last 3 years. And I thought it was important to bring that up, right?
Yeah, that's good.
Because it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's very good.
Yeah.
So because we're going to be organic, I didn't necessarily create an outline of how we were going to sort of go back and forth. And I really did just want for us to have a discussion, which I thought was really amazing. Yeah. But I did want to, we kind of talked about some of the lessons learned. So I want to talk about what we've learned. We've talked a little bit about that now, but maybe go a little bit deeper into that.
Sure.
I think I have a couple questions that I might be able to ask to get us going on that.
Okay.
But I want to also talk about like where we are presently and where we're headed in the future, what the future looks like for ASQ Podcast and Empowerment Services.
Yeah.
And through that, we can reflect and talk about some stuff and whatever, but I just kind of wanted to have that be our episode that we share with people today.
Absolutely. So hit it.
So again, we started, we were born during COVID in 2021, right? And it was just an idea.
Yep.
A complete thought process. Like literally, I remember waking up one day and you were just like, guess what? We're going to do a podcast and you're going to be the host. And I was just like, huh? Like deer in headlights. I'm like, what do you mean? And
funny.
Then, yeah, literally though, that's what happened. Yeah. And it was pretty like, I was really amazed because the way that I look at you is that, and I think a lot of people that care or understand you, or at least know you to a certain degree, understand that you're this person, right? You're this person who's very much a visionary. You come up with ideas that are gigantic ideas. And then I'm the person that says, okay, let's take this idea and this is what we need to do to make it happen. Like, let's break it down, right? And we work together collectively to do that. And so we sort of came up with this whole podcast. We made our studio and did the whole thing, and we started to do this. And there are a couple of memorable episodes that I stand out for me,
okay,
right? And have sort of led me in this path of evolving, right? Even though I'd always been evolving, I think that this really I self-tuned my awareness, right? Okay. So I was a doctoral student at that time, like in the middle of it, and learning a lot about myself, a lot about, I made emotional intelligence a really important part of my journey with my doctoral degree, right? Which is what my dissertation is on, or my book is about. And I realized that, and you said it earlier, that just because I'm at where I'm at today, one, I haven't arrived. I'm still evolving and I'm still growing as a person, but I'm also much more aware and cognizant of my experiences, if that makes any sense. I don't know if I'm making sense or not, because I don't want to get all philosophical, but like, I feel like before...
get philosophical, yeah.
Before, you love that, right?
I do.
Before 2021, I almost feel like I lived in a haze. And then when I put my story out there, which was the very first interview that we ever did, right? Was my interview, and then we did yours. I became very vulnerable, right? And there's this brave or courageous aspect of being vulnerable, because you have to be able to say something that you're afraid to say. And so I shared my story with people. And from that moment forward, it's like these layers of this haze were just being stripped from my face. And I really started to understand, we talked about peopling, right?
Yep.
that's been really hard for me because I've always had an expectation on what people should be doing and they're not doing it.
Yeah.
And having to come to terms with that and understand it and be okay with, okay, this is me. I'm focused on my life and I can't worry about other people and try to control those outcomes. Right.
Yeah.
So I think that when I'm talking about that, when I it's going to sound egotistical, when I think about an impactful episode, because that's what I wanted to do is recollect on an episode that I felt was really like, wow. I feel like my interview with you was very impactful for me personally. I don't know about how it affected other people when they listened to it, if they heard my story. It wasn't an in-depth story, but I know my story. And putting myself out there in that capacity really took a lot of layers of that haze from my eyes and helped me to appreciate that I'm a human being.
Yep.
And that I'm just a squirrel trying to get a nut too. You know what I'm saying? And that I want to live an authentic and genuine life and be a person that I'm proud of personally and not worrying about other people and how they feel about me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was going to be my question to you is are there any episodes or interactions or anything that you can share with us today that has really made an impact on you from the beginning till now?
Yeah. So, you know how people come up with, you just said it, it's like up to that point, I lived in a haze, right? And I think a soul's quest, right, has been an accumulation of starting, not being the catalyst, let's say, right? It's been a lifelong reflection, right? So 2020 happened, and there was a lot of things in my professional life that caused a lot of pain and suffering, personally, a lot of disillusions, right? And being a person that typically takes things inside and reflects a lot, looking at the trajectory of my life, right, and seeing certain things that, in theory, right, that I've learned, right, by listening a lot, spending a lot of time learning and listening from Joseph Campbell's work, right, the hero's journey and the hero with 1,000 faces, the power of myth. Listening to things like and reading things like Carl Jung and the subconscious and things like that, and being interested in these things of asking the question, like, what is life? Who am I? Why am I here? Like, just those basic foundational life and questioning things as to why things are the way that they are, right? And reflecting on that and looking at my life, it's and then being able to come at a point in which it's like, oh wow, there's some commonalities based on what they are saying as to the trajectory of our lives. The different cycles, Eric Erickson's different cycles of life, the crises, being able to understand through mythologies and symbolisms, how we could actually grow from those things. And one of my things that I focus in my career, working with young people and managing people, being in that middle management area, was always to get the most out of people by helping them see who they are, right? But I also failed to see a lot of those things within me, So it was very poetic in the sense that I was giving, but also I wasn't really taking care of myself and my needs. So arriving at the creation of a soul's quest was my opportunity to really express myself in the way that I want to express myself without the confines of somebody else's mission, right? And by now answering your question in terms of what stands out the most from the stuff that we've done, the episodes, I love doing the interviews. The interviews is one of my favorite things to do. Because we live in a world of so much separation and so much differences, right? Perceived differences, right?
The focus is on
that. The focus is on that, right? When you start really seeing the commonality of our lives, regardless of race, regardless of gender, regardless of whatever personal identity we have, right? There are commonalities that even when you listen to the interviews, right, and taking someone from the early childhood, their memories, positive or not so positive memories, and how those memories really affect the decisions that they're making in their adolescence, young adulthood, all the way to the point in life in which they are. Just seeing the correlation and the consistency of the same things over and over again, right? And then realizing that most people are not aware of that, right? Number one, not aware of the cyclical nature of their lives, but also of why they do what they do, right? And why we do what we do, right? And so we are so much influenced, like you said. It's almost like this haze. We live in a haze, right? Because we're pitched into the world, and everything then is people are telling us what to do, how to be, how to behave, where do you come from, what is success, what is this, what is that, and nothing really comes from our essence.
Things are defined. They're defined for us.
They're defined for us,
rather
right?
than us
So
defining it,
our success and our essence and our success and the idea of where we are is typically all defined by all these forces outside of us. Some of them are good intentioned. Others happen by happenstance. But we allowed all that to define who we are, right? And then we don't question why we're here. What is life? How do I live a good life? All those philosophical questions that have become the domain of the elites, right? We don't ask anymore. We just take things in. So when I interview people and I see all these different things, I see the patterns of Nietzsche's, metamorphosis of the spirit. I see how a person is a camel and all that stuff. I see how the camel turns into a lion, and the lion is either defeated by the Dao Shao, by the dragon, and they just assimilate but die each day little by little inside. But I also see at the other end how that force that makes us who we are, right? The universal thing, and whatever the hell it is that you call it, right? It's always crying to come out, right? It is just it's beautiful just to see how that innate thing, that deep sense of where everything comes from just comes out of people, and how the persistence and the perseverance that the human soul has in all these things. I think about our interview with Mike Sancho, who's a dear friend of mine, how the pain and suffering of being abused as a child, right? How that created his need to take care of other children, right? I think about Teresita and doing an interview with Teresita and knowing this beautiful soul, how she was mistreated by other people, but she still had the perseverance to move forward. I think of Terry Stone, losing her husband in his prime of life, right, for forces outside of her, and her perseverance to take care of her girls and being an positive impact in the community that she lives. I think of more recently some of the interviews that came out, like Blanca, and seeing her father being murdered, and going through all these things and being lost, and then coming back on the other side and being a wounded healer, to help people, even after all this. It's like, what is that thing? Why is it that our soul keeps craving for more, for unity, right? To me, that's just so fascinating. It's like so fascinating, and then, the choice, right, to live from that point, right? Because you could make the choice, and you see it. Some people have become very, very hedonistic. It's all about their status. Look at me. Look at what I've got. We face that all the time. That person is lesser than me, not because of anything in particular that they've done, just because I think I'm superior because I went to UF, or I went to James Madison, or I went to Georgia, or I went to this and that and the other. Which makes me think about Fred and the humbleness and the friend and the true friend that Fred is, and the obstacles that he faced, right? And he said, yeah, I did go to Columbia and I struggled to get in there, but I went to Columbia, but that doesn't make me better than the next person, And it's just seeing those things in humanity, how easy we get diluted right? And we forget the essence of the soul, and I remember this, right? This guy asked another comment, one of the first comments that we ever had. Well, what do you mean by the soul, right? And I thought about that before I answered, right? And there's, I could go and say, look, I like the Greek definition of the soul, which includes the mind, the logic, but there is no denying that there is something in us. And however you categorize it or whatever you decide to call it, there is something in us that tells us to keep moving, that propels us to move forward, right? And this is the reasons why we could make our situations and our lives and the people around us lives much better. Because that thing, right, it's unexplainable. It's an experience that you have to feel. In spite of how many people spit on your face, how many people laugh at you because you're so different, which is my experience.
Make fun of us.
Make fun of us, make comments just because they feel superior, And I've learned to the fact that, you're right, people are going to people. My job is not to see what I want to see in them. I have to see people who they are and for what they are, without judgment and without resentment. People are who they are.
Yeah. And
that's a hard lesson. So to capsulize and just summarize what I just said, it's just my experience, and one of the beautiful things that I've gotten from this 100 episodes and the interviews that we have is how common and how similar we all are, And our separation is illusions and temporary, right? Because our cultures, even though they're different, they're just expressions of how we view the world. But we all have the same commonalities. And we all ask the same questions, like, what are we doing? Why are we here in this,
universe?
In the universe that we don't know what's going on and what's happening. Why are we here? Who am I? How am I here in relationship to the all? So I just find that fascinating and beautiful. And I just really hope that people see the commonalities rather than the differences. Yeah. And that's the reason why I really enjoyed listening to the interviews.
Well, that's always been our fundamental focus, right? Our fundamental core was that, to bring people together rather than separate and focus on what makes us different, right? Appreciate what makes us different, but also appreciate that we're very much the same.
Exactly.
So, and I think that's really important. So you said it really well. That was
nice.
Thank
you.
Very. Yay.
Yay.
All right. So,
and it's funny too, right? Because the way that I express myself sounds very technical and stuff, but it's very organic because it's who I am. Yeah. And then it's like, for better or worse, because again, I have people that say, "Oh, Mr. Omar, you're great," and some people just don't like me.
That's true.
And the reality is that it's like, this is who I am. It's like I can't, and it's taken me up to like, the COVID years and all that stuff, right? To really come to a full acceptance of who I am, right? Am I going to reach everybody? No. It's impossible for all of us to reach. But if I'm able to, and I think intentionally, this is one of the things that I've tried to do, and not to toot my own horn, but this is how I was taught. And sometimes it doesn't come from me. It comes from the Betty Medina, my mother, my abuelita Mantina, Ken Mullen. This is what I was taught, to be this type of person. And I have to do honor to that. And whoever doesn't like it, then, at this point, it's like, what can I do? It's like, it is what it is, fellas. It's like, I don't know what else to do but be myself at this point. Yeah. So.
That's good. I mean, I'm down, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, just recently we sort of rebranded, right? We're not using A Soul's Quest as much, even though it's very much a part of our focus, and it's still a fundamental core. It is the foundation core, yeah. And that's the essence of where we come from, right? The soul. So we recently rebranded, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about that because I wanted to sort of just talk about what, so we rebranded into ASQ Empowerment Services, and I wanted to talk about what that looks like for us in our future.
Yep.
And then we can move on from there, and we can end on a really good, sharing some of the highlights of what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
A little bit, just tidbits, not a lot.
Yeah,
Sorry.
No. Yeah.
You have to stick around to get it all.
Yeah, you have to, yeah.
Okay. So yeah, let's talk about that.
So a soul's quest, right, which is the premise of everything that we do, kind of like comes from that foundation, right? It's the idea that your heroic journey as an individual to find who you are in the midst of the totality, right? Which you are a manifestation of the whole, right? We are a way for the universe to know itself, like Carl Sagan says, right? And the universe could be very atrocious, right? But it also could be a point of beauty, right? A beauty to experience a sense of awe.
Yes,
right?
definitely.
So that's the foundation of what we do. How do we find and live from that place, right? And so consequently, right, we transform into life, leadership, and culture, right? And the social change model, right, focuses on that. I mean, it's a scientific principle. Everything starts with the individual. The individual affects the family, their immediate environment. From there, it affects the community, then the world as a whole. You know, this is a science. You know, science. It's how we'll implement social change, but it all starts with the transmutation and the change of the individual. You know, and the only way that an individual changes is by truly knowing who they are in relationship to the whole, right? There is no other way. You know, how can you be empathetic? And this is one of the things that I'm experiencing, right? So working in the social fields, and I see this, right? Everybody talks about trauma-informed and all this stuff, and it sounds great, and it sounds beautiful, and it is great, right? But I can't live inside of you, right? I can't understand. I can't go down and live your specific trauma. It's not practical. It's not realistic, right? However, I have an experience with what it feels to be alone. Not your same experience, but I understand what being lonely is. I understand what it is to be abused, which brings the feelings of rejection and anger and all that, right? So as an individual, if I'm understanding and I'm seeing the symptoms out there of someone, then I could better relate to that person, right? Which is the common denominators that we all share, right? Could lead us into better empathy to ourselves and to others, which consequently transforms into how you approach leadership, right?
Well, that's my book, right?
That is your book, you know.
Developing empathy, self-awareness.
Self-awareness, you know, social,
cultivating
social and emotional. This is EQ, right?
Totally.
And the more that you understand about yourself, which is always, I mean, this is not new.
No.
You know, this
nothing
is
that we're talking about is new.
It's not. It's just realizing and reaffirming it, right? Lao Tzu, who, you know, Sun Tzu, who wrote the Art of War, which is a book that I truly enjoy, talks about the fact that in any battle, you have to know your enemy and you have to know yourself, right? Correct. And the more that you know yourself and the more you know your enemy, right, or whatever the opponent is, because sometimes your own enemy is yourself. Right? Because you don't understand where things come from. Why do I act the way that I do? Right?
Why am I responding
Why
this
do
way?
I respond the same way, right?
Yeah.
So there is that duality even inside of us. So the more you know about that reality and the potential of what you truly are, then you could, you could make a reconcile the two of them to become more whole.
Right.
And it's the same approach to leadership, right?
Yep.
Leadership is, you have our society talks about, being the CEO. Everybody's a CEO nowadays. CEO, that's the title. Yeah, it looks great, right? It looks beautiful. It's like, yeah, cool. Kudos, right? But how do you measure your success? Is by what you output and then you aggrandizing that title, or really if you are building the people, if you are actually living from the point of view about caring for individuals.
Right.
And caring for individuals and living from that place of seeing their whole, it doesn't mean that you're weak. It means that sometimes you have to have a tough conversation as a leader. Like, you know what? I appreciate what you do, who you are, but perhaps this is not the best place for you. And that's a tough conversation, but it's a good conversation, right? But sometimes from our experiences, it becomes like, oh, I don't like that person because they're too opinionated. I don't like that person because they push back, and I want them to do what I want them to do.
And for clarity, that's not us doing it. That's the experiences that we have had with
other
individuals.
And a lot of people have had the same experiences.
Oh, yeah, tons of people.
So talking about what rebranding is being able to take that idea of your individual quest as a person to find out the essence of who you are, right? That true power, or what real power means to you, and how that, right, affects your immediate circle, which is typically your family, right? Which is very important.
Well,
right?
just
your community,
the
places that you work, consequently your community, consequently the whole, right? And it doesn't have to be this big fireworks of stuff of being, I have this title, so I want people to look at me, which is a very important drive to also understand. But in order to have proper leadership and affect culture, in a way that is, I don't want to say positive or negative, but in a way in which it expands the individual freedoms, right? And it expands people's ability to be self-reliant, right? And then it expands the idea of community and collective growth and collective connected benefits, right? Then that's the process. All that starts with the individual. So that's why the rebranding is. It's not a change. It's just a transfer. It's a quest. It's a transformational change to arrive at that. But it all starts with the individual.
Right.
That's the main reasons why they're rebranding.
Right. And and like you said, it was an evolving, right? We started with the individual, and while that is still our focus is the individual, we understand now that the individual affects so many different variables, right?
Yes. It's like well, the thing is this, right? Like, I'm an introvert by nature. I like spending a lot of time alone, right? But there comes a point in which I can't just stay there. I have to go to a point in which I need to share it, and I need to go out there and live it, right? Because as humans, we are social creatures, right? And we live in groups, and we live in communities, right? So even though I spend a lot of time alone learning and thinking and doing all these different things, I still recognize the fact that I cannot live just like that. I cannot live like a person that just doesn't have any interactions with people. I have to be able to go out there and do my part and help somebody, right? See the beauty that they are, right? And again, so that sounds naive. And it's like, you know what, dude? Stay in your lane, I stay in mine. This is the way that I view the world. This is the way that I was taught.
Well, and it's like we've always said, maybe we're not for you, and that's okay.
And it's fine.
And there's no, we are not going to be upset about that.
It's fine.
I think that it's important to put that out there, to say that, okay, you've come to this point in your life, or we have come to this point in our life, and now it's time for us to embark on this journey of sharing, which is what we've been doing over the past 100 episodes, right?
And I listen, and it's like, I rebuttal to people that say that. It's like, look at our society right now. Look at our world. Look at our world, and we live in the most technologically advanced society that has ever existed. And yet, we live more isolated, more lonely. We have more of an existential crisis in a world that we're supposed to be more interconnected.
Yep.
Things that make you go,
I'm scratching my head for people who are just listening to us.
I'm just saying, right. And this is, again, a lot of this stuff, right? It's like, because one of the issues that I've had doing all this stuff is like, in my back of my head, I always think about people saying, well, who are you? You didn't go to this school. You don't have this certificate. And it's like, you don't have to. This is what the problem is. We have made, right, thought and thinking the domain of the elitist. But there's no denying out there that we all feel it, and we all know it, right? But unless this person tells me that it's this, unless this person tells me that it's that, right? I have met some of the cruelest people that I've ever met have been the most, quote unquote, educated people.
Same.
Right?
Same.
There's some of the cruelest people, because you know why? Because they know it all, and they have been justified by society because they went to this school,
money. They do this. They drive this car.
Some of the cruelest people, right? And they're not even human anymore, right? They're just not. They're not human beings.
Not
They're
to
just,
not to treat people the way that they have.
but the reality is that they are justified in their essence, right? While they're destroying the lives, and I've seen it so often, destroying the lives of people, destroying the lives of a community. You know, that's why we did the episode on Jack Welch and the impact that he had, negative impact that he had on society as a whole, in capitalism as a whole. Because capitalism is not bad in of itself,
Right.
but capitalism cannot only be in the vacuum of just profit making, because look at all the damage that it has caused just in that premise. Because again, right, if a leader only thinks that there is no repercussions communally, right, and a whole of what they do, they're mistaken. I'm not saying that their drive for power and excel is incorrect. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is the fact that when you're not really thinking about how impactful you could be for the whole, look around you and see what happens.
Well, that's the problem. A lot of those people are. I'm not going to even begin to quote it, and I don't know where I got it from, but I read this story or an article or something on how people, when they get to the top, right, when they're at the top, say a CEO or a president of something or whatnot, that they think that they've arrived.
Yeah.
And so when they think that they've arrived, that's already a misnomer. Huge, because nobody's ever going to arrive. You just don't. Unless you're a narcissist, unless you're an egotistical person, then you have arrived. Yeah, and all the power to you then. But those people are so far above and living in their own little world that they don't think about their actions and their behaviors and the way that they talk to people.
And the effects that
and
it has.
And the compounding effects. It's like when you do the domino and you set it up and it doesn't, when you do this and it goes all the way and the dominoes keep falling and where it ends up and how it falls down at the end, people don't see that crash, right? For the people that are
correct
in their lives, for the people who have to interact with them, for the people who have to deal with them on a daily basis. It's like a very selfish sort of type of individual,
but
to think that you're actually thinking that you're impacting people positively.
Well, it's not.
Listen. Let me just say this too, because I know that we have to end soon. I know we can make this whole episode, so let's not give out the nuggets here. Okay, let's chill. Say what you want to say briefly, but I also want to talk about what we're doing in our future, and where we're going. That's important.
So I do have to say, right, that the idea is, I'm getting to the stage in life, right, that it's not about good, bad. It is kind of like beyond good and evil, right? Yeah. I think it's more about awareness of our collective impact, because on the opposite end of that person that's a narcissistic is the person that is at the bottom, that have been stepped on, that have been struggled, in which they feel powerless. Yeah. And they feel they don't feel as if they have an impact on stuff. And I want to say to those type of people that your life matters. Again, it's like the way you live your life, the way that you treat others, has a ripple effect. It's like that Cloud Atlas line, what is an ocean but a multitude of drops type thing, right? Mm-hmm. And it's like, it's an important thing to be able to, for us who are beginning to see it, right? It's to be able to also begin to see the beauty of others, right? In both ends of the spectrum, mm-hmm. right? And then be able to build that empathy to be able to help them to live more in equilibrium, mm-hmm. Because it is important to have a drive for success. I mean, that's always something that is key. Mm-hmm. You have to have that drive. I will never want to take that away from you, right? And the person that doesn't have that drive, is good for them to be able to also live in a way that makes them feel good, mm-hmm. and do that as well, right? Mm-hmm. Because both are needed. So we have to be aware of those type of things as individuals, and for people who are, there is that responsibility of living from that essence, mm-hmm. of what we discover, and then be able to live from that and deal with the adversities that come from that, but also be able to help others by the way we live, not because of, not what we, I should do this, I should go to this part. No, by the way that you live your life and you choose to live your life in a way that it has that has meaning, that impacts your family right away, and that impacts your workplaces, that impacts the communities that you live in, and ultimately it impacts everything. Because again, at the end of the day, we're just swirling back there, right back there. Yeah, we're just swirling like it's like right here somewhere where we at. Right? We're just swirling somewhere in that thing, which eventually will collide with Andromeda. What are we gonna do then? It's okay. I'm getting out of
now. You're getting dark.
Now I'm getting dark,
Okay.
but it's just
no. I understand. All right. So because obviously every time we do this, we could talk forever. But so let's share to keep it at a minimum and not again. I don't want to give away all the nuggets, all the good stuff, all the cookies. What is something important that you're working on that is related to what we're doing with the podcast and also with ASQ Empowerment Services?
Absolutely. So we're working on a couple of things right now, which I'm very excited. It's been one of the most challenging things that I've done in my life. But there is a book that is coming out in the next few months. It's called A Soul's Quest and Transformational Approach to Life, in which we're going to be talking about certain things from perspective, experience, and then philosophy, right?
Nice.
And how we could really transform our lives by using our thoughts, but also our intuition and the part of that. So that will be something that's coming up in the next couple of months. It's something that we've been working really, really hard on.
You've been working.
Well, that's number one, right? There will be a couple of other things coming after next year as well as your book, which will be coming out, which is about transforming toxic cultures and workplaces.
Yeah, well, actually,
Why don't you talk about that?
It's my book that I wrote for my dissertation, but I'm revamping it. I'm updating it, and I'm adding a little bit of content to make it more. It was practical then, but I'm just adding a couple of different things. So I'm just revamping it. I don't want to get into too much of that, but I am very much still focused on the individual and, cultivating that level of awareness and empathy within us so that we can transform our immediate environment as well as our workplaces and our culture.
Yeah.
And so it has very much a lot to do with the individual, but also the leadership aspect, because that's my passion, right? So I am focused on revamping that. That's what I'm working on currently. We're also very much working on, just to put it out there, highlighting more of the services that we offer at ASQ Empowerment Services, which is the group coaching, trainings, speaking engagements, which I think you're freaking amazing at, and trainings, you're amazing at those things too. People who come away from your trainings have been touched. Trust me, I talk to a lot of those people.
I don't touch
not
them.
Because touched by what you have said. My gosh. Okay. But no, a lot of have been very impactful trainings and things that I've witnessed, and I never have seen you do that until just recently, and it's remarkable. So I understand what people are talking about now, not just because you're my husband, but because it's the truth. Yeah. So that's we're going to be emphasizing more of that type of thing and putting our services out there.
And something else, in addition to all those things, something that we'll be going to be working up is creating a community in which we share a lot of these lessons in which individuals could really start working on themselves. I do something similar to not I want to self-improve, but to grow, right? To find different aspects of myself and grow it. And that's something that will be coming out sometime maybe middle of next year, to create that community, to have more open conversations, to be able to share, and to be able to learn and put things into practice. Because at the end of the day, and one of the things that I do in my conversations in communities, in the conversations and the things that I do, it's really, we could talk all day. I mean, I could talk for a long time, but action speaks. It's really the thing. Actions, and those actions come from within. For you to understanding and going out there, feel that uncomfortability as we have felt in the last 3 years doing this, and learning from those things and arriving at a place that is like you could look back and say, "Oh wow, that was pretty cool." Wow, I was losing my head because I couldn't figure this out. So we are going to be doing those communities, but at the core of it all, right, at the foundation of it all, is something that at the premise of a Soul's Quest, of the ASQ empowerment, it's the individual.
Yeah.
Right. It's that idea that the individual is the most important thing, because without strong individuals and without people who are truly self-aware, who really know who they are in relationship to the whole, right, we're going to continue to see what we get. To see what we're getting. And again, that's the main objective of it all. That will be always the foundation of it all. And that's always something that we're going to focus on.
Very good. I'm glad that we shared all this stuff. I feel good about it. I feel good about where we're going.
Good. I mean, it's going to be an interesting ride, and I think this time
it's been an interesting
ride. But I think for me primarily, the main focus is to be joyful.
Very much,
and doing it from the joy.
I think if there's anything that we can definitely end this episode with, is that going through all of the things that we've gone through, being where we're at now, and in our future, being able to experience things and have that joy surrounding the things that we're doing.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the main focus.
Thank you for tuning into this episode. If you're ready for meaningful personal growth and transforming your business or organization, visit our website at asqempowermentservices.com for more information. Stay tuned for more exciting topics.